Okay. And wow, I'm really did I goddamn hotkeys. There. Now I can get everything all set up. Alright. Let's jump into Rust. Alright, so first things first, let's look for axe or hatchet. Hatchet. This is the original hatchet. When you go into edit, you have your normal, specular gloss. It does have an occlusion and does have an emission. It looks like we only have to work with specular and gloss and occlusion. So there's no roughness. So you're going to want to hit this button, download model as an OBJ file, put it into a folder that you created. And just keep in mind, you know, that it does have an occlusion, so you can add extra lighting details using AO. But the main things that we're going to be working with are normal and diffuse. So that'll actually make things a little bit easier when we're uploading our materials. Let's see what they did here. Now right here, just in case you start freaking out, let's see if it's the top too. There is. You can see the line on the head of the axe, and the reason why that is because that's where the seam is. So if you draw anything on this side, it's also going to show up on this side. A lot of models do that for the fact that it saves space for geometry. Handle, not so much. So when they made this, this was separate from the handle, which we're going to separate inside Blender. So we're going to jump into Blender 3.5. You don't need to download any plugins for this method. This is just using Blender. Oh god, that coffee is horrible. I'm going to hit A, X, delete, file, import, OBJ. Axe. Set origin to geometry. I'm going to rotate this on the X. Rotate it on the Z. Rotate on the Y. That looks pretty darn good right there. Rotate on the X. G on the Z. G on the X. Nope. G on the Y. Scale this bad boy up. We've centered it. I'm going to hit Tab, Alt, and Z to go into X-ray mode. And I'm going to hit 1 to get the points. 2 is lines, 3 is faces. Lines. See how it's only doing the lines. 1, points, lines, faces. Alt-Z with the points. Two, Oh yeah, there we go. And I'm holding control to get all the geometry except for these two pieces right here. I'm going to press P, separate my selection, hit tab. This will be head, handle. I'm going to do the same thing over here. P, selection, tip. Now we got to set up our materials. Let's go down here. This material, I believe, we're going to need to set the materials for each of them. Now we can change the name of it, which would probably be a smart idea. So yeah, let's do that. Hatchet. No need to unwrap it. It's already unwrapped. It's built into the OBJ part. Alt-Z to go back. Good. Let's go into UV editing, image, new, and we're going to do 1024 by 2 is 2048, but I'm doing times by 2. Hold shift, click on it, pull down, so you don't have to type it again. Jack up the color, and this one is going to be diffuse. Then I'm going to click this button, and instead of, it was diffuse, the next one was normal. And one more for glossy. Now, if we go down here, there's nothing in here because we're going to be using this section for our brushes. Yeah. Let's go into our shading. We have a base color. Input. No, texture, image texture. Gonna highlight this one, Shift and D, Shift and D. We can do the AO after, but for right now, let's just get our normal. This will be our diffuse. This will be our glossy or specular. And normal. Now remember to add your vector, normal map, because you need to convert this node and convert it so that the purple goes to the purple. I'm just going to pull these close together because this is what's going to be used as our selection tool between each one of them. So, yeah. All right. Whoa. Talk about a lot of feedback. So now that we have each one of these chosen, let's load in some brushes. I'm going to jump back into layout. I'm going to do a new brush, image texture, and I'm going to open my textures. There we go. I'm definitely doing the copper roughness. And this is going to be Hatchet. No, head. And then I'm going to do a new one. Wood. Diff, or wood diffuse. And I'm going to open my wood. Wood norm. So now we have our wood normal. We're going to open that up. Gonna do another one. We'll call this one, what else do we have on? Head norm. There we go. Now we're going to go underneath texture paint. Nope. Layout. Choose which selection you want to paint on. Go to your texture paint. And we're going down to texture mask. Oh, texture. Head norm. Head norm. It's underneath texture. And we're going to do stencil. And I'm going to hit 3 so that I'm right on the side here. Right mouse button, when you click on it, kind of brings it down. If you hold shift and move it, with the right mouse button, you can kind of bring it up and down. But right now what we're doing is we're just covering up. We're doing our diffuse. So underneath shading, make sure that diffuse is chosen. This is chosen. Texture paint. And I'm holding Alt, going over, and I'm painting everything except for probably could move it in a little bit more. See how this looks. I can hit shift and space too. Bring this here, and I can bring up my radius so that it goes a little bit quicker. Holding shift. You know what? I gotta throw. I believe there was a browser in here. Hmm. There we go. All right. And the main thing is, you got to remember too, when you're doing this, notice how on one side, anything you do is going to do the other. And I'm going to show you why right here. Some models, like I showed when we were downloading this, see how I'm coloring over here and it's doing that? It's because they split this in half to save room. Basically, it's mirrored. Which, if you're going to put a symbol or something on the back of these type of objects, you want to do it dead center in the middle, and it has to be symmetrical. If it's not, you're going to have a real tough time trying to get it. Which, I mean, I'm thinking about doing some Celtic symbols with this. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm just looking to see how well each one works and the distance of each. I do think the smaller the better. Everything is in 2048, so that's good, because whatever you set up for your texture, you want to make sure that it matches what you're using it as. You can do 512, 1024, 2048. I don't recommend doing 4K for the sole purpose that I don't believe, I'm almost 100% positive, Rust doesn't even take that. Now, if you're noticing, like, here, let's do this. There's kind of a line there. Just kind of go over it real quick and cover it up. And this is the easy part, just getting your base color down. We could just smother it, but I kind of know what I'm doing. I was on Twitch last night, and I could have had this yesterday, but I'm going to be using this to make the tutorial. Alright, so we're just coloring all this in. You don't want to forget the bottom and the top either. We already did that. It really doesn't matter. It's not like a lot of people see it. But if there's something that's totally not colored in, it's going to look kind of wonky. That's what I meant by the line. Get rid of these lines. Bring this up here. And it's wherever you're projecting this onto. So if you end up doing this at an angle and coloring it like that, keep that in mind. You can treat it like a spray paint can, which we might actually do for this right here, but I'm not positive yet. Alright, almost there. And we have everything all separated, so we don't have to worry too much about that after. Now this is bent in at an angle, so I would turn it just a smidge. And we set everything up before. If you want to add extra, like AO, you can. But the problem with occlusion is, especially if you're using Blender, you can't... Blender, it supports AO, but it's internally built. Like, you don't need a separate map for it, which is kind of a bummer. And as far as I know, I don't think there's really anything to change that. We're almost there. And then, I mean, when we're adding, the details come after. So this is exactly what I was talking about. We only had to do one side. Because again, you got that split. Well, that was a bad idea. There we go. Also, alternatively, you can hold shift and then right mouse button and bring it up and down as well. Almost there. Alright. So now we got... I mean... It's not bad. Zoom in again. And say you do want something to go onto this. Alright, there we go. Probably should have drawn around the edges, but it doesn't look like there's that much of a problem. So let's do the wood next. You can go into shading, click on the wood itself, back to texture paint, wood. Hold Alt. I'm just gonna sneak in here a little bit and get rid of this. I'm gonna paint the rest of that. How would it look? Yeah, let's keep it this distance. And we didn't do underneath the axe. So back to the shading menu. Just click on the axe head, jump back into texture paint. We're going back into the head. And alternatively, you can just shut down that part too. We're not doing a whole heck of a lot here. So this is what I meant. When you're drawing on one side, this is the symmetry that goes straight down. Jesus Christ, buddy, what's up? We're trying to bring that down as much as possible. Howdy, Stone. How are you, dude? I think you have to be the most consecutive person that shows up for my live streams, and I want to let you know I appreciate it, man. Alright, this is the stretching that I'm talking about. This shit. It's better just to do this first, because what's going to happen is this angle is stretching out. And now we got stretching there. So always do your top and bottoms first. You can always go back and do it again, but honestly, it's just good to get it done with while you can. That's going to have a problem with the texture there. Let's just cover that. Alright, now if we jump back into our layout and we hit Alt-H to unhide everything, Z to jump down into our material preview, we got, you know, the basis of it done. We don't have the basis of this, though. So what we're going to have to do, click back on that, make sure it's on diffuse, texture paint, jump back into our brush. And the reason for this is because unlike the axe head, it's not at all split like into two separate like X and Y. Now we're going to jump back into our shading menu, click on tip, back into texture paint. Again, we're clicked on diffuse, so we're just doing our diffuse. And we're going to scroll down to wood diff, make a new one, tip. We can do wood roughness. Not bad. Jump back into shading. Click on normal. Back into texture paint. Material preview. We can do solid too, but I'm just going to go right into the preview. Click on our draw options. And we're going into wood, texture paint. You want to make sure that you have it selected, because if you just notice there what ended up happening. It's all about the setup. Probably better to get this side first. In fact, you know what? Let's just blast the radius. There we go. So now we're painting our normal map right onto the thing. Alt-Z, bring that down. And this is why you're doing the bottom, because look what happened. Everything that you've focused on this is now giving you stretching. Just going right up with it. And I didn't do the back. So, yeah, all the way up and down. Front and back. And if you don't like it, you can always go back, you know. And then we got the sides. Paint the normal map right on there. We know exactly what we need. Our specular and our gloss. Let's get rid of this right here. Same with this. Now we're heading back up. And feel free to pop in anytime to your layout so that you can see how it's starting to look and come along. It doesn't look like a lot right now because we don't have the gloss on there, but once we get the gloss, that's going to fix in with the normal. So let's get the top and then we'll do that. Still on that, perfect. Just going to go over here. Front and back. Sides and top. There, now we can do the front and back. Sides last. Jump back into our shading. We still have our normal selected, but now let's work on our handle. Head norm. I like to go over it a few times just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. And that normal kind of gives it a rougher look around the edges. So let's select the tip. We're going to do the same thing. Jump back into shading. We're still on normal texture paint. I don't know if we should use the wormwood. Well, we could. Actually, we could blast that up. Yeah, let's do that. So holding shift, I'm just going to bring it up. Just cover that. And then the sides. Jump back into our layout. Not bad. And we could do the same thing with our specular gloss, because what's going to happen there is everything looks shiny because we didn't add our specular map yet. Don't worry about these too much. Like I pointed out when we first started, when we pulled up rust, it's going to happen. And this is where you can see the split and the UVs kind of, it's mirrored. So it's mirrored right down the center on our y-axis. So anything that you do on the right side of the Y is going to happen on the left. So for this, what we're going to do is holding Alt, middle mouse button down, shading. Okay, good to go. I'm going to come back down here, and we're going to jump back to head normal. Shading. Make sure you have this selected. Perfect. I don't think I actually like that. So I'm not going to mess around with the rest of that too much. For the sole purpose that, yeah, want to kind of keep it as is. And also, when we go to put decals and stuff on this, anything we do on this side is going to end up on this side. Alright, shading. Let's get our gloss in there, which I have put underneath specular, but you can also do as roughness. And it's a black and white map, so we're going to go to the back here, front, top, bottom. Now we could make that a little bit darker too. Shading. Going to select this one, texture paint, back to tip. Nice. So let's do the same thing for our wood. Texture paint. Well, let's select it first, then go into our texture paint. Front and back first. Well, bottom, top, front, back. And we're just going to go side to side. Don't forget all the nooks and crannies. Definitely want to shade all those first. Nice. All right. Back into layout. And it's right around here where I'll throw in a camera now. Hit 0, shift and tilde, which is the little squiggly-majig line next to the number 1 key. Hit A twice, shift and A, light, spotlight, G, and Z to bring it up on the Z. Rendered, G on the X, and then we can just pull this right there and bring up our lighting. Bring up the size too, but more importantly, we can bring up the power of the light. The power of the light. All right, 0, F12. All right, so it's coming along. Let's throw a couple decals on this. Shading. We're going to choose this right here, and we're going to go back into our normal map. I'm going to make a new image. Symbol 1 norm. And I'm going to open up. I made these myself. Basically, I took the picture using Materialize. I created a normal map. I then used Cutter. So I took this, deleted the black part, used Cutter, overlaid that on top of that, so just this part was showing. Mixed the two together, and then deleted the white part. And this is what I came out with. So we're going to grab that. And now I can just add this right on the back. Now, without doing anything else, I'm going to go back into our textures. I'm going to make a new one, and instead of symbol norm, we're going to call it symbol specular. And we'll use rough. Oh. So what I did here, we're going to need this one. Well, Got the head norm. Because we're in our normal map. Shading, normal, texture paint, symbol. There, I painted the normal on there. Shift and tab, shading. Let's go up to our glossy or our specular. Back to texture paint. This one. I think that's all I'm really going to use that for. I know it doesn't look like anything right here, but if we jump back into our layout. Here, let's jump down into material preview. You can see where the indentation is. And then, of course, we can just cover this up after. But at least that gives a little bit to the glossy and the specular. I'm also going to put that Celtic symbol down here. So texture or shading, normal, choose the wood, texture paint. And holding shift, I'm going to zoom down. There we go. Put that on the handle. So decals are pretty simple for the most part. Shading, make sure you have what you want. Texture paint. See what happened there? It's because it's split in the middle, and this is not a symmetrical symbol. So, we're going to do a new symbol. And we'll call this one Celtic. Open the Trinity symbol, and there we go. You want to make sure that it's centered as much as possible. And again, if you mess it up and you're like, oh man, this isn't what I wanted, just go right back to cover it back up. It's pretty quick. But again, you want to make sure that you're doing alpha maps too, or transparency when you're doing your symbols, because otherwise you're going to get that break. So I don't think that other one was the right one. But this is just a quick showing. Now you can do cracks, crevices, pretty much anything and everything that you can think of, you can put in the blender. If we don't want this to be as glossy, we can bring it down. But here's our normal map image, save as, and we're going to put it underneath our desktop. Twitch live skins. We're going to do a new folder. Upload. Change it to 16-bit. Don't compress it at all. Normal. Save as. We have our glossy map. And this right here, shading, that's on that. Texture paint. Glossy. Glossy. Head. Now I'm overlapping into this one, so that's what you got to be careful for. Which isn't a big deal. So what we're actually going to do is we're just going to cover this whole damn thing up right here because we're not even going to use that up at the top. Let's jump back into our wood, show you how easy it is to switch. There we go. Wood normal. That was the glossy texture paint. There we go. Yeah, screw it. Let's just do this. Oh! Where are you? What? It was tip that I used. There we go. Done. Alright, so glossy, image, save as. Again, 16, drop that compression. Glossy. UV editing. And diffuse. Image, save as. Diffuse. 16, drop that so it's uncompressed. Let's jump into Rust. And don't forget to save often. At all. Like, all the time. And we can make ambient occlusion. Workshop, create new item. And again, edit. No, item. You got to choose your item. We're looking for Hatchet. We're going to call this Hatchet the, I don't know. What the heck should we call this Hatchet? It's just a regular hatchet. It's nothing special. We'll just call it Hatchet. Hatchet T Hatch. Yeah, that works. Edit. Gonna choose C. Oh, I probably should have put it right into... Oh, what did I put it under? It was Twitch Live Skins. Upload. There we go. Diffuse. Open. Normal. Normal. Open. Glossy. Open. And then, of course, we just gotta bring up or down our scales. I'm just gonna plug that right into the AO. And he has his hand on it, so we can't see where that symbol is. God damn it. Now, things look like this, it's stretched out. I did that on purpose. I used a texture, and you got to be very careful on how you put it on. That is way too big. This texture was meant to be, it's 2048 for one, and the wood texture is actually supposed to be much smaller. So this is what I was talking about, rushing through things. We got the edges on the blade there. We could probably soften those up. We don't want the alpha cut off. So now that we have all these right here, specular gloss, our normal is a normal map. Yep. Kind of can see that there. It's tough with the light. And this is what I meant by the texture painting. Go back into shading. Choose your diffuse. Wood cut off. Notice how much smaller it is now. So these things you kind of got to take your time with. And if you're doing this, you're gonna get cut off. Cut off is a pain in the neck. I have it on pressure point. And we're just covering up the lines here. Mixing them together. Having a good time. Great times had by all. Yeah, the ones with the roughness definitely get better looking models. I wish they added a roughness map for basically every item, but they don't. And unfortunately, this side... Oh, I did it again, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Alright, so we're going back into shading. Where is it? UV editing. And we're going to choose diffuse. Much better. Much better. We could have actually probably gone a lot smaller than that. Well, there's the symbol there. Alright, that worked out pretty good. For this, though, I As much as I hate to do it, I think I'm going to use an outside texture from textures.com, like a rubber, or I could make my own. Oh my god, I got it. Alright. Here, let's, because we're going to be opening up a buttload of programs. See what I mean, though? The difference, it really does make all the difference. That texture that we were using was meant to be a much smaller size, and if you bring it up, it might look good here, like, oh yeah, but when you put it into Rust and mix it with everything else, it just looks like a bunch of lines. So definitely make sure when you're designing a texture, if you're designing it, keep that in mind. Like, what purpose is it? Is it a texture that you're only supposed to do one pass over, or multiple? You know, because you don't want... See if we can spot some. We actually did a pretty good job. There's not too many cutoff lines. Like right here. Those are the cutoffs. You want to try to avoid that. Whereas this, like we went over multiple times, you can't really see any per se. And it does. It shows in the final product. A as opposed to B. You know? And I probably could go in and bring down the glossiness, because I don't want this to be... Well, it does look good because you can tell by the specular and the roughness. If it had... This is one of those that doesn't have a roughness map, though. That's the problem with Rust. Some of them have roughness, some of them don't. So you got to work with what they give you. And specular is good, but when you're trying to give it like a rough look, you kind of got to go on the darker side of things. And whatever you edit in the shading menu isn't going to carry over. The only thing that you're putting in is the textures right here that we're making right here. So, I mean, you got to keep that in mind too. And don't worry, like, if you're painting it on, you're painting it face on, you're seeing, like, weird stretches like this, and you're thinking that doesn't look right. It's designed, that's how it's unwrapped, so don't worry. However it looks in here, that's what you're going for. So, I mean, this is good for covering things up just to begin with. We probably should have painted over this area right here. I'm not going to worry about that too much, because it is covered with our other maps. But if it's completely blank, there's going to be nothing there. Or it's going to be one big white blob if you don't have your alpha on. So you want to work, you know. Like here, yeah. We'll move far away. See how you can see where that seam is? You won't really see it in Rust. But sometimes things glitch out. So to cover it, what you want to do is just... Here. Let me see here. UV editing. Tab. Tab. Right here. These lines. This overlaps it a little. You're not going to notice it. This over here, same thing. However, the thing in question is this right here. And that, there's a couple parts where it looks like it's right on it. Either way, doesn't look bad. And you also want to look out, like I said before, some things are split in half. So if there's symmetry going on, you got to choose one side or the other, and whatever side you choose, it's going to show up on the other side. So to put something on the back of this hatchet, it has to be completely symmetrical. Shading. Choose our normal, back into our texture paint, zoom in, and we're going to choose the Celtic symbol. And you want to make sure that is as close to the middle as possible. See, like I'm painting on this side. Kind of gets it. You don't want to cross over. So what you do is you bring down your radius a whole heck of a lot. Not to 1 pixel. We'll do like 9 pixels. And we're going right up to that seam. And this would happen too if we were using Mixer or Adobe. It doesn't matter. It's the way that the material or the model is set up. So there's nothing you can do about it. But you can throw that back there and be like, yay. And then of course, like we can add in our oh, we're gonna have to do a new one. New texture. And this is gonna be Celtic gloss? That's our metal. Now there's no metalness to put per se. Let's jump into shading and switch back over to our glossy because we don't want to paint on our normal. And I'm just going to match that up as much as possible. We can go up a little bit more than that. We'll bring it up to like... So you really... I could have gotten a little bit more perfect with that. That's why I tried to avoid things on the back of it. But if it absolutely needs to happen, it needs to be symmetrical. Whatever's on this side is going to show up on that side. So keep that in mind. Especially the hilts of some guns or the butts. What else did I see that on? Handles. Handles do that a lot too. Barrels, not so much. But that's just this though, you know? That's not this object right here. That's why we would see... Where are we? Yeah, that's why these are kind of further spread apart as opposed to these where they're closer together. So it's always good to just throw whatever on whatever model. You need to know what you're working with, and they don't tell you. You know, we set this up. We set the tip up. We set everything up. Actually, let's fix that. Shading, normal, back to our texture paint. And we're jumping back into our brushes and choosing wood. And it's a lot smaller. Now I'm painting over here. It's not doing it because we didn't select that. If you were just to paint this on and get going, you're going to be... Take the 5, 10, 15 minutes to set it up, and then you can just click and go. That's what I found, at least. And it might take you a couple days to learn like all the keys and stuff, but it's a pretty easy workflow when you start to get used to it. And you're not paying $100 or $120 a year. Substance Painter, what a joke. Well, not before. Before it was a great program, you know. I used to love Adobe. But now, no, they They lost me with their yearly subscription crap. And you can't, like, pick and choose products. They're like, oh, pick a package. No. No, homie, don't play that. But yeah, this new version of Blender, they fixed a lot of problems that was popping up here. And you can just pretty much paint and go. But don't be afraid. Keep in mind, too, I've said it before, I'll say it again and again and again. Yeah, that's much better. If you're using textures that aren't yours, just definitely, absolutely 150% make sure you put that down in there and say, you know, hey, look, I use this texture from here. Because otherwise you're going to end up like, it's been happening. I've said it 2 years ago in my tutorials. Your crap will get pulled and you'll get in legal trouble. And look at all the games on Steam that are like, hey, you're using assets from this game, and it's pulled from the Steam store. Not only that, but a couple of them ended up in some legal trouble. And these are quote-unquote small studios, meaning probably some guy in his house that after the law gets done with him, he won't have a house anymore. So, not that they'll go after you completely for skins, but if you make a crazy ass skin and it's awesome and it happens to be like one of those $4,000 skins, yeah, that Mama's coming back for a piece of that, you know. Lady Law. Oh, do I want to fill? No, let's stick with the rubber idea. So we're going into textures.com. Why is caps on? Here are some decals that you can throw in there to add etching. You know what I mean? They have tons of stuff, but just let them know. Be like, hey, these textures were used by textures.com in the description. But if you don't use them, then you don't have to put that. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to make my own. Let's see what we got. I'm going to throw this down here. Sure that we can see who it is. There we go. All right. And this is fun to make normal maps too. I'm gonna blend those two together. Gonna stretch this out. not translate scale on the X. Go right about there. That actually looks pretty good. Not bad. We'll transform that once again into 2D. And I mean, we could tile it. Could invert it too. Throw those on 2048 on our tile. There we go. Let's add more columns. Yeah, we're doing this. So I'm gonna choose the folder, Twitch skins, and this is untitled project, so we definitely need to file, save as, grip. Okay. Export. Boom. Back into here. Open. Grip. Come down to here. Was it under new? Where did I save that to? Oh, desktop. Twitch live skins. There we go. Grip. Now we can jump back up here. And we're going to go down to our texture. Grip. There we go. Now, here's the thing. When we do this, we're going to be covering up all the wet mold here. Just watch. You'll see. So let's... Oh, did I choose normal? I did. Thank God. Shading. Gotta click on that. A derp, a derp, derp. See what happened there? It got smoothed out and now you're not seeing the wood grain. So to get around that, what we can do is we can go into the normal map and we can just make a transparent texture. Yeah, there's tons of different stuff that you can do. But yep, let's go back into our texture painting. It's normal, image save. And we are going to try rust again. All right, workshop. Diffuse, open, normal, open. I don't like how that... I'm noticing the color is a little bit different, so we might have to edit that. It's faint, but you can see it. Handle looks a lot better. And then again, you can mess with the glossiness. Occlusion scale, I mean... Give it more of a yellow color. And there's the backwards problem. But yeah, that's basically it. Mess around with it, you know, have fun. But I'm going to be making a more condensed tutorial. God, why is it doing that? That must be a Rust thing. And then when you're ready, you just publish it. Make sure whatever you name your item, that's what's going to come up, like in the description and stuff. Publish it. Gauge MP5. And then just click on your name and then you can go into the work. Hatchet too. CSGO. Nice. Alright. Trying to remember after this what the heck to do. Workshop items. Hatchet 2. Yeah, finalize. Yeah, got it. And again, everything that I used here was 100% all my textures. You just put it in. Could probably make a metal one. We could turn that into rock. I don't know. Leave a comment if you're watching this after the fact, like what you want to see. Don't say AK. I fucking hate the AK. That thing's a goddamn nightmare. Oh my god, I hate the AK. I mean, even the MP5 or something. Just not the AK. Because then you're working with multiple models. And when you're putting all those it's just... That would be a whole nother tutorial in itself. Oh. That would be a whole nother tutorial in itself. Oh boy. Yeah. There we go. Alright, well, that's basically it. Take care. And, yeah. Look out for the tutorial. I'll probably throw some extra hints in there. I'll be working on some textures for the tutorial. Probably stream that too. But if you haven't already, subscribe. I appreciate it a lot. Alright. Well, either way, thank you for watching.